With the Citi Double Cash Card, you get 1% cash back when you buy and 1% as you pay. That's like the joy of discovering the last donut.
Ooh.
And it has your name on it, literally, in chocolate sprinkly things.
No way.
Double the love with the Citi Double Cash Card. Apply now at Citi.com/doublecash.
This is the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast.
Good Friday morning, everybody. We made it. The weekend is here. Glad you are listening and watching wherever you are. Trey Wingo here with Mike Golic and Mike Golic Jr. Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And, of course, if you want to tweet at us, because that's what we do these days, tweet us through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Hey, guys, happy Friday.
It is Friday. I know you're happy Friday, your first week of the early wake-up call, getting through the first week. You're a happy man, aren't you?
Friday.
Yeah.
To say. We made it.
He's just this young kid, right? Just doesn't understand, does he, Mike?
Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, coming at this. A lot of thriving on energy and enthusiasm this week, but Trey came over this morning on First and Last and already told me the thing he's looking forward to most in the world this afternoon.
I do like this.
Oh, it's the greatest thing in the world. I used to do it a lot on Sundays, but when you turn on the TV,
right,
and you lie on the couch and you start watching sports, like I'll probably be watching Tiger this afternoon,
right,
and you just tend to sort of drift.
Take
away.
a nap.
Just drift
away. It's a natural nap.
Exactly.
And I'm with you. And how so much to watch. You had Tiger yesterday. You had NFL last night. We won't talk about the one college game last night. That'll be stricken from the records, except it's in off the top, unfortunately.
Good thing there was no betting.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And then I'm so looking forward to all the college conference championship games starting tonight with USC and Stanford. So you'll have plenty of time on the couch to drift off. There's no doubt about it.
The unplanned nap is the best because on the back you get one of the greatest intoxicants known to sleep, which is that delirious wake up.
Yeah.
No idea where you are, covered in drool, in a location that's a little bit unfamiliar because it's not your bed. Yeah. You wake up with that kind of high and it carries you through the
Then
weekend.
you go eat.
Yes.
That's just great.
Yeah,
Yes. So what we're thinking, just give me the Beat Boys and free my soul. I want to get lost in your rock and roll.
There you go.
Drift away.
There you go.
That's what we got.
Well done.
But that's in a few hours.
Yeah,
we got stuff to do and stuff to talk about. Listen, this is going to be a great weekend in sports, as you were saying. College football conference championship games starting tonight. We've got huge NFL games. The playoffs are getting here. We're going to get the full slate of Week 13 games, and we've got Tiger Woods back in action. The guests we have coming up today, we've got David Pollack to talk about what he expects in the college football championship games coming up at 7:30. Michael Wilbon of PTI will join us to talk about what he thinks and what you think about the NFL and their $100 million.
A little more news going forward with that with Malcolm Jenkins.
Absolutely.
We'll get into
that. Nota Begay, we'll talk to him.
Well, we're going to have fun with that with famous roommates.
Because not only is he an NBC sports analyst and former PGA golfer, but he was a roommate of Tiger Woods.
Oh, we got some good ones out there.
In Stanford. Katie Nolan will join us for the first time, doing the Katie Nolan experience.
There you go.
And, of course, we're gonna Tebow.
Yes, we are.
Do a little Tebowing.
Yeah. We're going to Tebow.
He will join us as well.
Call it, though. What do you call that other thing?
Dabbing?
That Dabo. We're not going to Dabo. We're going to Tebow.
I'm
just kidding. It's a joke.
Are you kidding?
It's a joke.
You know him. Was he kidding?
Please tell me you're kidding.
I was kidding. Oh, my gosh.
Right. I mean, you
guys got to get used to my humor. You'd think you'd know it by now.
That's why I'm asking.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
The humor has to be funny.
Oh,
wow.
See, there we go.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Are we driving in the car again all of a sudden?
Isn't this a spot that we did already? All right, listen, let's move on and let's get you going with...
It's time for Off the Top.
Whether you like it or not,
It's just beginning.
With Golic and Wingo.
And here we go with Off the Top. Cavs continue to roll on. LeBron James, 24 points, 12 assists as the Cavs won their 10th straight with a win over Atlanta.
It's their second longest winning streak since LeBron rejoined the Cavs in 2014. LeBron James, what is he, 50? That's what his body should feel like for all the games he's played. He's having one of his best starts to a season in his career. He's averaging at least 28 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists through November for the first time in his career. So we always talk about, the demise when they're not getting it going early, and Boston was on that incredible run, and we're like, the changing of the guard is happening. That's why there's 82 games, and you get a chance to settle in as the Cavs have now won 10 in a row.
It's been a weird revival. We're obviously talking a lot about Tiger Woods being back as a guy who's an older player, but who suffered a lot of injuries. With LeBron James, we went through that lull after those MVP seasons in Miami and the championship in Cleveland where I think we've sort of underappreciated or at least undercovered what he's been doing. But now because of the advanced age, because of all the things surrounding their offseason, I think we're paying attention again to just what a mutant this guy is. I watched him block some guy into the G League last night. Yeah. He has been not only stellar numbers-wise, but just crass and offensive with the way he's actually gone out and performed. So to go out and be able to be that disrespectful at this age for LeBron James while we have all these other teams making moves and young players coming up is insane.
Well, the other thing, too, is, look, LeBron is in what, year 15?
15.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he turns he turns 33 at the end of this month.
By the way, only 33, which is ridiculous when you think about it.
But you think of all the miles on his legs already and how we're talking about players who have been around for a while, how they seem to be, finding that fountain of youth a little more today.
But the numbers he's putting up in year 15 and the way he's playing in year 15 are like Jordan, Kobe in their prime. It's amazing to see what he's doing 15 years into the league and the numbers he's putting up. It's absolutely staggering. All right, we continue with
Off the Top.
Sorry, guys. Number 3, Michigan State beat number 5, Notre Dame, allowing the Big Ten to claim one notable win in the Big Ten ACC Challenge, which was won by the ACC 11-3.
Yeah, whatever. Listen, quite honestly, Michigan State took it to them right away. It was a 20-point halftime lead. Notre Dame did cut it at times. I saw it, 6 or 7 in the second half, but Michigan State, to their credit, wouldn't let them get any closer, and then, won by a healthy margin, 81-63. They had an edge in just about every facet of this game. Plus 10 edge in offensive rebounds, like 20-6 differential in second chance points. They were just getting it done. We thought this would be obviously a better matchup, but we'll see where these two teams end up down the road. It is the beginning of the season, but a nice commanding win for Michigan State in this one. Even though Notre Dame kind of got back into the second half, there was never really that feel like, Michigan State's going to give this one away or Notre Dame's going to take it. Michigan State kept in control.
Depth, size, and the ability to work in transition all killed Notre Dame at the beginning. They couldn't get anything going in the paint. A team that usually the hallmark of Bray teams is being great shooters from beyond the arc struggled early with that and gave up, I think, more points in transition against Michigan State in the first half of the first half than they had most of the rest of the games this season.
They average in the through the first 6 games 5.8 transition points giving up. They gave up 19.
Yeah, it was that kind of night. So congratulations to Michigan State and Tom Izzo on their November national championship.
Woo! Wow. Did you see why I didn't bet?
Yeah.
You see why I didn't bet?
We'll see you guys in the tournament. Those jerseys were trash,
friend of the show. You just smoked them.
No, I love Tom. I love the accordion. Great. Those are great. Yeah. By the way, we'll get to the roommate thing. Him sneaky my favorite former roommate.
Yeah, we'll get to that one. That's
on
a good
the list.
One.
I feel like that could have been a Bash Brothers duo for the ages back in college.
Won't give that one away.
No. Strong though.
Notre Dame was out rebounded 42-21.
All right, I think we covered that. We can move on.
There you go. Okay, just want to let you know.
Hey, we'll do what every bad team in a conference does is just chant the name of the conference when they do something good. This is for you, Kentucky and Vanderbilt in the SEC.
By the way, 21 rebounds, the fewest in a game for the Irish since 2011.
I thought we moved on.
What do you do?
Off the top.
Just wanted to let it marinate.
Yeah, I bet you did.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen, at least for a round. He's back for a round. After a 300-day layoff, Tiger Woods shot a 3-under 69, and were it not for 2 flub chips, he might be there with a 5-under 67. He looked great.
Yeah, he did. Tied for 8th, 3 shots back from the leader, Tommy Fleetwood, who, by the way, looks really good as well. His 3-under is a score is better than 3 of the top 8 players in the official world rankings right now. You look, he had 5 birdies. He had, and what had been his a hallmark for him is how much under par he would be in par 5s, but he was 1 over in the par 5s. That's where he had, a second shot that just missed on one of the par 5s and ended up having a bad chip there and errant drive on another. But it was fun to watch him. And I'm sure we were all watching for is he wincing? Is he grabbing the back? How is he walking up a hill just to see if he looked good? And he did look good.
I told you guys where I'm at on this. Call me on Sunday.
Oh, boy. Seriously? Love at all?
Can't we just enjoy the moment?
No, listen.
Can't you just revel in the fact that he looked like he wasn't, coming out of surgery?
Yeah.
I'm happy for the guy.
Are you?
Don't get me wrong.
I don't feel like you
sound
are.
like you
know
are.
what it is? We're all just thirsty for this. This is about us. We're just over here trying to thirst trap Tiger Woods into being the guy again that he was.
Did your thirst get quenched a little bit yesterday in watching that? No?
Not a drop.
Oh, you millennials.
You're dead inside.
You really
just so
are.
you know, you're dead
I'm just
inside.
saying, you know what? I know what Tiger expects out of himself. I know the guy that he used to be. I'm not going to belittle him by making this the thing that gets me all hot and bothered anymore. I know where we've been in the past.
All I'm saying is that when Tiger was asked about his expectations for this tournament, he said, I have none.
Yeah.
So he doesn't know where he is. The thing that I thought was really cool about this, and we'll get into this a lot throughout the show, how many people were tweeting in saying, isn't it so great to see Michael Phelps,
Steph Curry.
Absolutely. They're all like,
Bo
this is
Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
You're wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.
You were on the wrong side of history.
You're going to have
here,
a really
Junior.
short appearance on our show today.
Yeah, just get out.
Thank God.
Get out. Actually, that's a win for him.
Yeah, really.
You're sticking around all show,
exactly
buddy.
Right.
You are here all show.
My God, no.
Yeah. So we didn't play that quite the right way.
We did. That's my fault.
That's my fault. Stay here for a little longer. We're going to take naps later on the show. Yeah. And we finish
Off the top
with the Dallas Cowboys. Finally got their offense going on Thursday Night Football, destroying Washington 38-14. Des Bryant, by the way, with a touchdown catch, went up and caught it. 72nd of his Cowboy career, breaking the mark he had with Hall of Famer Bullet Bob Hayes.
How about that? So Dez has 72, Hayes 71, Jason Witten. It's amazing. The top two are still active. Witten 67, Michael Irvin 65. Make no mistake, they did this one on the ground. Dak threw 22 times, completed 11, just over 100 yards. Hurt his hand, had to go in, get it x-rayed. They ran the ball 42 times. They controlled the ball for 32 and a half minutes. The O-line looked more like the O-line that we have seen as they're working through their injuries, getting Zach Martin back out of the concussion protocol. Tyron Smith had missed some time being back. And so they looked like that team of old. Again, not the passing game there, but the running game, and defensively, they had a fantastic pass rush with 4 sacks.
Yeah, and listen, that Washington offensive line, conversely, is about as beat up as you can ask. Right. Morgan Moses, their right tackle, who had already been basically playing with no legs, got his legs taken out again last night, got carted off, and felt bad for that guy. But if you are that defense, you've got to be a little encouraged, because without Sean Lee, they've been just as much of a disaster as the offense has been dealing with their injury carousel in all of this. But a big night, the Alfred Morris revenge game against his old team, beginning to go off, felt good for him. Dez turning back the clock a bit. Leading up to that game, all I had heard about was the Cowboys thinking about maybe moving on from Dez this offseason.
Dez couldn't separate.
He's got a big number next year.
That's right. That's exactly right. And give a little love to the defense. As we mentioned, they had 4 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence had 2 of them. He now leads the NFL in sacks. So he's a guy who we know that side of the ball has gone through some suspensions, especially on that D-line, he being one of them. They're rushing the passer pretty well. At least, again, last night, do you take it with a bit of grain of salt because it was an offensive line that was injured a bit, but still, you're playing who's on the field, and they dominated.
And that was indeed
Off the top.
And let's stay there talking a little more about the Dallas Cowboys here, because all your points are accurate. But at the end of the day, this was a team that had lost 3 straight games. They had looked like they didn't know what they were doing, either on offense or defense. And then they come out with a lot of help from Washington and the 4 turnovers.
4 turnovers, yeah.
They scored 38 points in a game. They had scored 22 in their previous 3. So the thing that, if you're a Cowboys fan, the thing that gives you a little optimism is that they finally figured out a way to get the running game going without Ezekiel Elliott. Because even when Zeke was in there and they were put up big numbers against San Francisco or Kansas City or Washington the first time they played him in the rain, when you play the Cowboys, if they're going to win, it's death by 1,000 paper cuts, okay? They don't have a ton of chunk plays in their offense. They don't. They'll get occasionally Terrence Williams will get sprung for a big play, or they'll get Zeke loose on a screen, and that'll work. But the way the Cowboys are built to win is 4, 3, 6, 8, 7, 5, 4, 6 yards on the ground per play. In fact, I think on the first touchdown drive of the second half, they had 1 passing play on what was an 8 or 9 play drive. So basically, this was the Cowboys getting back to mauling people. They got their offensive line back, and our big man, Damien Woody, said it was a thing of beauty.
Sometimes as an offensive lineman, your pride is challenged. You get called out. Internally, that's probably happened. But what you saw from the Dallas Cowboys tonight, they literally imposed their will on the Washington Redskins, up front. Now, the Washington Redskins helped them out with all the turnovers, but in the end, it was the Dallas Cowboys offensive line, to me, that was the MVP of tonight's game, because Dak didn't have the best of nights. He threw for 2 touchdowns, but he was really pedestrian as far as yards, but it was the 42 42 rushing attempts by the Dallas Cowboys. That was the difference in this game.
It certainly was. It's interesting. I was talking about this with Junior on First and Last, Senior. You look at the box score. Let's say you didn't watch much of the game last night. You wake up and say, "Well, Cowboys rolled them." The games are really interesting because one thing can change a game completely. Just because one thing happens doesn't mean everything's going to happen in sequence after that. The second drive for Washington, they were driving right down the field, and Kirk Cousins, by the way, who played remarkable in this game. Don't look at the box. Don't look at the numbers.
Right.
I mean, the score. Look at how he played. He was not the reason they lost this contest, even though there was an interception in there. But they were driving down the field on their second drive. The Cowboys, I think, had 3 and outs to start. They couldn't get anything going. And they're inside the 20-yard line, and he hits Jamison Crowder on a perfect little seam route, and it bounces right off Crowder's hands and goes into Heath for the interception. If they had gone and scored early, it would have been really easy for the Cowboys to go, man, here we go again. We're on our way. That play, I think, really changed the game, and also the punt muff. It kept Dallas in the game until they finally said, hey, damn it, we can do this again.
And Dallas gets a punt return of their own by Switzer for 83 yards. That was a thing of beauty. And Mike, my son, will make you happy and make the Dallas offensive line our players with style. Brought to you by J.C. Penney. Take the J.C. Penney Holiday Challenge and find surprising gifts at surprising prices. Get everything on your list for less than you think. J.C. Penney. So let me ask you, there was so much talk, and you had to love this. Last year, the offensive line talk was the sexy talk everywhere. The Cowboys O-line, Oakland's O-line, the anchors on the Tennessee offensive line with Conklin and Lewan and a couple other offensive lines. This year, it started out not good for the Dallas line. The Oakland line still trying to find their way. What's been for the Dallas line? Why so much struggle early, and why are they getting back into it now? I know injury will play some part in that.
Injury plays some part in the late. Struggle early just has to do with continuity. Like losing Ronald Leary and Doug Free this offseason mattered, and I said that going into the year when it came to the Zeke suspension. Serving that at the beginning of the season would have been perfect timing because the first 3 or 4 games we saw Chaz Green at that left guard spot wasn't exactly working. La'el Collins still getting used to communication with Zach Martin. And then they settle on Jonathan Cooper at left guard, 4 or 5 games in. And then he gets a couple of games under his belt where he starts feeling good. And oh, by the way, 6-7 games into the season, this offensive line starts to look more like itself. Right around the time you would have been getting a fresh-legged Zeke Elliott back. So instead, you go through those growing pains with Zeke, and you remove them when they're finally feeling good, and then you suffer the injuries. So now it's getting back for that group being on the field again at the same time because what you lost in Ronald Leary and Doug Free, certainly talented players, veteran presence, and everything else. Ronald Leary having a great season for the Broncos.
One of the only ones on that O-line,
yes,
too.
One of the very few, but you lost continuity, and it's like the defensive backfield where communication is so paramount and the game of inches of knowing where my buddy's going to put his hat, knowing where my help's going to come from in this protection. For a team that likes to run as much zone as they do, for a team that's faced with protecting for a passer like Dak who can make plays with his feet, who can move around a little bit, all of those things get shown in the light a lot more when you've changed the parts up a little bit. And the only thing you can do to get that back is time. And that's why the offseason program and the new CBA always get talked about.
Here's what amazes me, and I don't know if we've ever seen this before. Brett, maybe you can find this out. Brett, doing our research, is that offensive line has legitimately has 4 first rounders.
Yep.
Tyron Smith, first rounder. Jonathan Cooper was a first rounder with Arizona.
Yep.
Fredericks, obviously a first rounder at center, and Zach a first rounder. And La'el Collins, had he not had the issues he had in college, he was a first round. They could literally have had 5 first rounders, but they do have 4. I don't know if I've ever seen that before.
Yeah.
Where you have that 4 starting first round offensive linemen on an offensive line. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, the thing about that, too, and we've talked about this a lot this year on NFL Primetime and NFL Live, we all like the flashy little toys. Ooh, look, quarterback, wide receiver, runner, fancy, shiny things that go fast. Every team that's playing well this year has a good offensive line. Every team that isn't playing well this year has a bad offensive line. And nobody wants to acknowledge the big uglies. Big guy, but I will, because that's how it works. What was Minnesota's bugaboo last year? Their offensive line was horrible.
And all new.
Yeah.
All new.
Completely new offensive line. They are dominant. It's a third-string quarterback in Case Keenum and really a third-string running back.
Yeah, and then how about the Rams?
Yes.
Doing the same thing as well.
Andrew Whitworth over there.
Sullivan at center, right?
And then look at Philadelphia. Okay? They lose a Hall of Fame left tackle in Jason Peters, but they're finding a way to make it work. Kelsey on the inside at center is one of the most mobile centers out there. Every single team, and even the Saints with Ryan Ramczyk, the kid out of Wisconsin.
Yeah, and he's
playing really well.
On the left side,
Armstead.
Teron Armstead, yeah.
I know he got nicked up
He's
again.
been in and out with injury. The Zach Streif I saw just finally going on IR for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, one of their right tackles, Max Unger, one of the better centers that kind of goes under talked about at this point. So I agree. The game this weekend, Sunday Night Football, is honestly going to highlight what this means for teams because you're going to have that Eagles offensive line that's played really well all season, and on the other side, you're going to watch the Seahawks, who have, as an organizational level, made the decision a long time ago that is not a position group that they put a ton of stock in.
You know, the interesting thing about that is when they won the Super Bowl that year, they had the most cap money that year invested in their offensive line. And since then, they've had the least. And I don't understand, right?
I'm with you.
One of the things is, look, they thought they could have a breakout offensive player in Jimmy Graham. They gave away Unger, who's now in New Orleans.
Exactly right.
At their center, and that's really hurt them. But I'm really surprised that Tom Cable, the offensive line coach, assistant head coach out there, and the rest of that staff of the organization hasn't realized, guys, we got to fix this. We got to fix this. You know what I mean? And that's the biggest issue for them going forward. Brett, you've got that.
Brett, so they're the only team with four first-rounders.
The only team that has 4 first-rounders starting on the offensive line.
The Dallas Cowboys.
Cowboys. I've never seen it before.
It's insane.
I mean, it really is just amazing.
And it's one thing to have that number, Jonathan Cooper, because the other ones, they've been all pros and everything else. Right. Jonathan Cooper, a lot of injuries, has been around on 3 or 4 teams in his career.
He was part of the Chandler Jones trade that went to New England and Arizona.
Now starting to finally play like a first-rounder. This has been his best
life out there.
This has been his best ball by far. And if anyone, you could have asked for a guy that I got to know during training before the combine and the pro days, one of the best guys out there. So seeing him have this career renaissance has been really nice.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
Mm-hmm. Trey Wingo and Mike Golic Sr. Rolling into hour number 2 on Golic and Wingo on a Friday morning. Glad you're spending time with us. Trey Wingo, Mike Golic Jr. We are presented by Progressive Insurance on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, and all phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Those guests will include David Pollack coming up at the bottom of this hour to talk about a huge weekend in college football with the conference championship games. Michael Wilbon will join us to talk about what some players are saying on different sides about the NFL's $89 million donation and why some players are still upset about that. What that money might indicate, and other players like Malcolm Jenkins and Chris Long of the Eagles saying, no, this represents a really good start. We'll get into that as well. Nota Begay, Tiger Woods' former teammate at Stanford, a former PGA golfer as well, and working for NBC and the Golf Channel, talking about what he saw in Tiger's first round. Katie Nolan will join us as well, and we will have all of that for you coming up throughout the day, plus Tim Tebow at 9:30
just
Eastern.
Really looking forward to the college conference championship, just because it can either go a way of there's no issue.
Yeah.
The 4 top teams win their conference and they're in, and that's all we talk about very, very simply. Or you get a few upsets in there where they're 1 through 8 being Ohio State in the college football playoffs, all have a chance to make it in. So I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, an NFL weekend. And Tiger Woods, you sit there and it kind of flirts with you.
Yeah.
It just does. Now he's going to get all 4 rounds. There's just 18 golfers. So he's going to be there on the weekend. Will he be in contention? We'll see. But a lot of good things to look forward to. Had NFL last night with the Cowboys getting the win. But I am really looking forward to the conference title games, which start tonight. Unfortunately, it starts with a game. I think it could be a good game. They played in September. It was a 20-point win, I believe, or right in that area.
USC
for USC over Stanford. But neither one of these teams has a chance to be in the college football playoffs.
No, but could be a better game. Stanford getting much better play out of their quarterback.
Right. Could be a good
play
game.
after the change made at that position.
Also, maybe the most underappreciated running back in college football.
Bryce Love, yeah.
He's played very well. All of that is coming up. But, it's funny. People are like, "Oh, why do you keep talking about Tiger?" Well, this is why we put out a poll.
We did. You put out a poll, and basically it's on a goal. It's at Wingo's. It's at Golic and Wingo. I'm at ESPN Golic. We have M Golic JR 57 as well. We've all retweeted it out there. It's very simply Tiger Woods. Great start means, and your choices are something, everything, nothing. Golf is boring. Yeah. And Trey, who is a big golfer, you should be very happy that coming in last place right now is golf is boring.
There you go. Winner, winner, chicken dinner.
Coming in first place, and this was my vote.
Yeah.
My vote was something.
Right.
Because we just don't know yet, but something. Something leads at 34%. I'm sorry, I'm wrong. I am absolutely wrong. 35% is nothing. So something and nothing are basically neck and neck.
Polarizing.
How about that?
Polarizing.
Something and nothing.
But it's got over 4,000 votes already.
It does,
I mean, that's the point, and people are also tweeting us about this. For example, Pulabus says the most obvious answer to Tiger's return, Tiger's back depends on Tiger's back, and that's a very good play on the word.
It is. That is very nice.
And by the way, Golic, to your Junior, to your thing about participation trophies, Josh writes in, when you have a vested cash investment in Tiger, you'll give Tiger as many participation trophies as possible. That's not technically true because it's his event. So, someone's
giving himself a participation trophy.
Well, actually, he had to give himself a sponsor's exemption to get into his own tournament.
How about that?
So it was one of the two he decided to give him.
And there was a really good article about him being able to get in all the different tournaments.
Right.
Because he's missed so much time.
He's 1,100 something in the world right now.
And basically, he can get in to all the tournaments. Yeah. It's basically how it's going to work, except for some of the world tournaments, but we won't worry about that. I thought what was very interesting is a tweet from Jason, because I just read it, and I'm trying to go through my head some of the possibilities. If Tiger Woods wins a major again, would it be considered the greatest comeback story in sports? If he wins a major,
it would be way up there. It would be. I just
started to try and think in my head, what are some of the great sports comeback stories that coming back to unbelievable success, and that would be. In this sport, the success would be winning one of the four majors, especially since he hasn't done it since 2008. So that's a very, very good tweet, Jason. I'm not going to lie. Because
that was
it
tremendous.
Really got me thinking to some of the great comebacks, and I'm just trying to think what comes to mind.
Well, that's the thing. Right now, what would you consider one of the greatest comebacks of all time?
I'm trying to think of how you quantify this, because there's a couple ways to go about it. Obviously, Tigers would involve not just coming back, but coming back to the heights that we've seen.
Right.
Because while he didn't suffer any catastrophic injuries, he suffered a lot, but a comeback could be like Willis McGahee, who suffered a catastrophic injury that we all saw and then managed to come back and have a stellar career still after that.
So I guess it would be your definition of coming back, because he did have a stellar career, but was he ever the best running back for a period of time? Will Tiger Woods come back if he were to win a major? Would he be ranked number one again? Could he get all the way to that? So putting in that, and I don't think he will, but putting it in that context, what would be considered one of the great comebacks of all time?
You cross sports and it goes to different. Does it mean a title? Does it mean excelling? Like Josh Hamilton, who came back from the depths of drug abuse and all that kind of stuff to win the MVP in the American League. Would that count? Are those the kind of things we're talking about?
I mean,
here?
Like a guy like Thomas Davis in the NFL,
I was
three knee surgeries,
three
ACL surgeries to be a Pro Bowl caliber player and maybe the best linebacking pair in the NFL.
On some level, even though he was sort of just there along for the ride, but Peyton Manning coming back from the neck fusion surgery and winning a second Super Bowl, even though he was clearly the participant with the defense that.
But I mean, before that, he came back from the neck surgery the first season in Denver and basically rewrote record books offensively.
Second season, 55 touchdown passes through 37-12 the first year, but 55-13 the second. That would be considered an amazing comeback. So we'd like to get that reaction from you guys on Twitter. Where would you see if he comes back? What would you consider that to be one of the major comebacks in the history of sports? Yeah.
Good question.
And hit us up at Golic and Wingo, your thoughts on that one. So we'll get to that. Adrian Peterson, by the way, coming back from the torn ACL.
And in like 7 months, too. That's right. That was a great comeback.
And it come up, 9 yards shy of Eric Dickerson's single-season record?
Just about. Kyle Rudolph is a former roommate of mine with the Vikings. One of the stories he always tells, the most impressive thing AP did, seeing him sprinting in the offseason, something like 6 months out of surgery, where most people would still be relegated to far, far less.
Jennifer Capriati, the tennis player, who came back from all kinds of personal issues to come back and win 3 Grand Slams. So there's all those kinds of things that are out there. So let me know what you think are some of the greatest comebacks that you've seen out there in sports and where Tiger Woods would rank. Again, hit us up on our Twitter feed at Golic and Wingo. Okay, so we talked a lot about that, and we'll continue to do that throughout the day. Again, Notable Gay coming up a little bit later on Golic and Wingo to talk about Tiger Woods. But we do have a ton of football to talk about. Yes, we do. Big matchups and storylines week 13 of the NFL. So let's do our 5-point stance, which is brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit us at geico.com or call 1-800-947-AUTO. And we'll start our 5-point stance with the Eagles. Philadelphia going for its 10th straight win, which would set the longest win streak in team history. They won 9 straight in 1960 and in 2003.
Listen, they're playing great ball right now. As I said, they are the most complete team in the NFL, even over the New England Patriots. I think they are. But what's interesting is I don't know if you can pick one part of their team that's the best in the league. You know what I mean? Now, Wentz, certainly could be right there for MVP. But, obviously, Brady's having a great year as well. Wentz would probably be the closest because they have a really good offensive line, maybe not the best offensive line. They have a really good running game, maybe not the best running game. They have a really good defense, maybe not the best defense. But as a whole, they are absolutely killing it right now.
Spread out and complete. You're right. The front seven's probably where they get the biggest wins over some of the comparable teams, like the Patriots. The build is very similar. We talked about the running back trios, borderline quartet in Philadelphia in a lot of those ways.
Well, look, the interesting thing here is they won 9 straight in 1960 when they won the NFL championship. That was the famous picture of Chuck Bednarik over Frank Gifford. 2003, they won 9 straight, went to the Super Bowl that year, and lost to – 2003. No, 2003, they did not go to the Super Bowl. It was 2004. But the other thing about Philadelphia that you really like is that this is the 4th time in franchise history they've been 10-1. Each of the previous times they've made it to the ultimate game, the NFL championship, and 2 other times they've gone to the Super Bowl and lost. But they've made it to the final game every time they've been.
And what a matchup with Seattle, at Seattle as well. Seattle fighting for that spot, sitting at 7-4, while the Rams are at 8-3. Again, the matchup, you look at that offensive line of Philly and that D-line of one of the few things staying intact in Seattle there. Sheldon Richardson has really been making some plays for them. That's the back end of that defense that's been hurt. So you wonder if that passing game can take advantage of that.
I'm really curious about that because as good as Carson Wentz has played, and he's played phenomenal, and he leads the NFL in touchdown passes, the key to that team this year has been their running game. I mean, they're averaging 147 yards per game. What do we see about Dak last night? Hey, when the running game is working, you can make a lot of throws, right? So Carson Wentz has played great. I think he's a superstar, don't get me wrong. The key to that offense has been the running game. And right now, the Legion of Boom is decimated in Seattle, but that run defense is still pretty stout. So this is going to be a real test for me for Philadelphia because they fed on a lot of home games against some inferior teams. This I think, will be a big test for them.
You mentioned, though, the injuries that Seattle's dealt with. Philadelphia's done this year, dealing with a lot of key injuries in places for them in the defensive backfield and the offensive line, all across the board. So give them credit for overcoming and showcasing a lot of depth as well.
Absolutely. So we'll see what happens with that in our 5-point stance. 5-point stance number 2, the Patriots are looking to reach 10 wins for the 15th straight season. And the amazing thing is that still wouldn't be the record. The record was the San Francisco 49ers, who from 1983 to 1998 won at least 10 games in 16 straight seasons.
So they're playing Buffalo, which has been kind of a Jekyll and Hyde early on. We're like, whoa, this team, are they going to fight for the division? Then, okay, maybe they're a good wild card team. And then they benched Tyrod Taylor. We have no idea why. One of the weirdest moves all year. So now he's back in, but the defense had been playing great, then had not. So in New England, the first 4 games, they're 2-2 with both losses coming at home. So we're like, wow, okay, did we overstate? Is Tom Brady really going to be 40 or play like he's 40 years old? And then they do what New England does. You always give them the benefit of the doubt. Why? Because they do this. They end up getting it all together. Whatever foibles they have, they end up somewhat figuring it out. The biggest thing still, though, Mike, is going forward is Tom Brady can't be taking the hits that he's taken.
No, that was their undoing in 2015 or 16, whichever, 2015, that playoff run where they were ousted earlier than expected by the Denver Broncos because they couldn't protect him. That's still been an issue this year, but as they've looked to mold and gel to try and overcome the Julian Edelman injury, seeing Rob Gronkowski look like himself, and through the first couple of games, looked like he was a bit hobbled coming off a lot of the injuries. He has looked a lot more like the Gronk of old, and that's huge for this team that, listen, as Brandon Cooks and company come along, wants to rely on someone who's been there.
Look, the one thing that I think defines the Patriots' greatness more than anything is their ability to probably end up in the AFC Championship game no matter who gets injured besides Tom Brady. Okay? I mean, Chris Hogan is out for the last few games. Julian Edelman has been out. Dante Hightower is out, one of their best defensive players. The amazing thing about New England, when it's all said and done, and again, they're trying to win their 10th game for a 15th straight season, is that they have the ability to overcome massive injuries better than any team I think I have ever seen at any level in any sport. anywhere.
They do, and it's a type of player that Bill Belichick gets, the versatile player.
Yep.
So if someone gets injured, somebody can step in, or you know each other's positions. It's been a hallmark of his coaching philosophy. So, like I said, they always get the benefit of the doubt. You never, I should say, count them out until they're out. There are two teams that I don't bet against, or don't bet against a lot, and that's Alabama and New England. For the most part, you're going to win those bets.
And amazingly, Saban and Belichick are very close.
How about that?
It's amazing how that works out. By the way, Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. We're in the midst of our 5-point stance, looking ahead to Week 13 in the NFL. Oh, by the way, Tom Brady has already won 10 games as a starter this season for his 14th time, tied with Peyton Manning for the most. So one more, and he would have that record alone ahead of Peyton Manning. We continue on our 5-point stance with number 3. Expect a high-scoring affair in the Panthers-Saints matchup Sunday. Since 2011, this series has produced an average of 55.6 points, the highest of any matchup of two teams that have met 10 times.
This one's going to be an exciting bit of backs-on-backers because you look at what's produced for both of them, and we just mentioned Thomas Davis and Luke Kuechly, maybe the best linebacking core in football, one of them up there, but then you get the running back duo of Alvin Kamara, who's been unbelievable, probably a leading candidate, especially since Kansas City. Kareem Hunt has dropped off in the second half of the season. Yeah. Alvin Kamara has thrived in that offense alongside Mark Ingram, who's been the veteran there, so an interesting matchup to watch. Can they stymie Alvin Kamara, especially not only in the ground game, but in the screen game as well? Very reminiscent of Pierre Thomas, one of the great screen backs that they had there for a long time.
And again, the last time New Orleans had a running game like this, they were winning the Super Bowl. So it's what a break it has to be a bit for Drew Brees, or how much it helps him. But as far as the division, both teams are sitting at 8-3. Carolina has already lost to New Orleans at home.
Exactly right.
At home. So this one now is in New Orleans on the Saints turf, bringing in Carolina. Mike, that's a great point you bring up, the linebackers against the backs, because without a doubt, those are the strong points for sure. And that offensive line for the Saints has been a strong point this year as well. I'm looking forward to this one. This could go a long way. I mean, New Orleans set up perfectly. Finally had that streak snapped while Carolina's won 4 in a row. But New Orleans, more importantly, can get the season sweep right here.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, this is the start of, by the way, the South. Bad radio coordination. The South down the stretch has a lot of division games within each other. We've got those 3 NFC South teams all in the playoff picture right now, but they're getting ready to start knocking some of that off a little bit down the stretch.
Yeah, in the last 5 games, Carolina plays New Orleans, not just to say division, but tough games. New Orleans, then they play Minnesota, and they finish up with Atlanta. So it's certainly in Green Bay and Tampa Bay in between for them. But this is a monster game. They need to get a split out of this series.
Yeah, and again, the last 2 times in New Orleans, these have been 41-38 games. And it was that loss that Carolina had to New Orleans in Carolina. That was the start of New Orleans' 8-game winning streak after an 0-2 start. So that really turned their season around. Okay, we move on to number 4 in our 5-point stance, and it's about Eli Manning. The start streak will end at 200 straight games, which is the second longest by a quarterback in NFL history, behind only Brett Favre. And the active leader, as you mentioned earlier, Senior, was someone in Eli Manning's draft class.
Phillip Rivers, 187 games. He takes over the lead, and that's all positions. That's not just quarterback. That's all positions. He leads right now. So you look at it from the Giants spot, with Geno Smith starting, when are you going to see Davis Webb at some point? They're playing the Raiders this week, which has been, they're a 5-6, a disappointing team. That AFC West has been so disappointing. We'll see if now the Chargers, and led by Phillip Rivers, can actually make that run. But, we'll see with the Giants. It's all about now what you're going to get out of Geno Smith. To me, it's more important if you finally see the rookie in there and what he can do.
And that's why I'm very interested to see Geno Smith in this game, because you've got a guy basically playing for his NFL life.
Yep.
Who doesn't know how much time he's going to have before they eventually go to the rookie, whether it's in this game, whether it's in the next game. So you are going to see max effort. Does that manifest itself in a great game that prolongs a career, or pressing and a catastrophic blowout that ends a career that we all had such high hopes for at the beginning?
And it just goes to how botched this was for the Giants. I mean, essentially, for those of you that may not have heard over the last few days, they went to Eli and said, hey, look, the streak, let's keep that going. But we're going to pull you because we need to have these other guys. And Eli said, no, that's ridiculous. So yesterday on NFL Live, I had Steve Young on, and I phrased the question to him this way. I said, Steve, let's put you in this scenario. Let's say in the mid-'90s, when you were killing it, rewriting record books, and at one point until Peyton Manning came along, the highest passer rating ever for a single season, and they said to you, Steve, you're doing great for us. We've had a great run with you, but you know what? we know you're getting older, and we got this guy named Elvis Gerback, and we need to find out whether Elvis can be the guy again after you, because we need to find a way to move on. So we're going to let you start, and then we're going to pull you. How would you react? Here was his reaction.
I told him to stick it. I would do exactly what he did. I mean, if you're going to approach this, approach it over a period of time. Like, look, Eli, we don't necessarily want to bench you, but we've got to figure out how to get some players playing that we want to see and make him a partner in it.
I love that. I tell him to stick it.
It is good. Now, Eli isn't playing like Steve was when you pose the question, but still, I get what you're saying too. Again, where Eli is running scout team plays during the week this week. I mean, this has just been kind of an ugly ending for him.
Yeah.
But I guess the question goes forward, and we talked about it some yesterday. Is it really an ending, or will he show up somewhere?
It's an ending
starting?
In New York.
Ending in New York. Yeah.
I mean, look, people are like, it can be salvaged. I'm telling you. Tom Condon is Eli Manning's agent.
Yeah.
Look at what Tom Condon has done for Sam Bradford.
Yeah.
Over the years.
Yeah. Eli will be somewhere.
Eli will be somewhere else and probably playing very well next season. So we'll see how that plays out. And the final of our 5-point stance, it's the Cleveland Browns. They start 0-14 last year and are 0-11 this season. According to the Elias Sports Bureau, they're the second team in NFL history to start 0-11 in consecutive seasons, and the other team is the all-time futility team, the 1976-77 Bucks.
Oh, boy.
I think they went 0-28 to start their career. Was it 0-28? Brett, look at that. The Bucks, I think, were 0-26. 0-26, yeah, which is just brutal. How do you do it, guys? I wouldn't wish Owens. Mudhogs. You played Mudhogs. My son played. They went 0-8 one year, and my son was just out of his mind. I couldn't I wouldn't wish 0-16 on my worst enemy.
I think I won one Pop Warner game in 4 years of Pop Warner football.
What was your worst record at Notre Dame?
At Notre Dame, we were 6-5 or 7-6 and 6-6 my first 2 years there.
So never my first year in the NFL was 3-13 years. So I mean, it can be ugly. When the last couple of weeks the U-Haul is hitched to the car, and people have their minds elsewhere.
Business decisions.
But for the Cleveland Browns, they're going to play the Chargers, who have won 5 of their last 7, and they're certainly playing for something. The interesting story on this, and we can get more into it, is Josh Gordon.
Yes.
Who has been reinstated, who's had all kinds of trouble. And then you start to hear of some of the things that he did when he was at Baylor as well. So, quite honestly, he's a guy, and I'll be honest, some people are rooting for, and some people say he has no business being in football anymore for the chances he has had and he has blown. But we'll see. Let's see if he can take advantage of this, gets back on the field again. Can he turn this thing around?
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
What a day, what a show, what a time.
I tell you what, a great sports night last night. Yeah. No doubt about it.
1, 2, 3, 4. I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I'm so happy, I feel like I can fly.
Disclaimer, you will not be able to fly by switching to Geico. This is against the laws of physics and nature. If you find yourself flying, please seek professional and or medical help immediately. In the unlikely event you find yourself flying, you might be a superhero, or a pigeon, or a superhero named Pidgewoman, who was bitten by a radioactive pigeon. If you are indeed Pidgewoman, Geico retains all licensing publishing rights in the event Pidgewoman the movie becomes a top-grossing Hollywood blockbuster.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
We will continue to roll through a Friday morning on Golic and Wingo. We're on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. And all guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, like this guest. David Pollack, our college football analyst, joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. David, is this going to be the most interesting or most boring weekend in college football, depending on what happens to these games over the next week starting tonight?
Well, obviously, if the favorites held, then it would be one of the most boring weeks in college football. We would be really crushed on Sunday doing our show from
4 hours. 4 hours, David.
4 hours, guys, and every team in the top 4 just won. Obviously, there's some intrigue, man. I think when you look at Auburn and Georgia, it not being at Auburn is a huge deal. Them playing again for the second time, there could be some drama. I guess Clemson, you could say is playing really, really great, and is a drama at Miami, and then Wisconsin, and obviously Ohio State. So Oklahoma, TCU rematch. I hope there's drama, but there's a good chance that I could see 3 out of 4 winning, and there not being as much drama. But if the 4th team loses, now we have all kinds of drama, and and that would be some stuff that would be kind of fun.
So let's take the games. Let's look at, especially starting tonight, because we want to get into that drama and how you think it will unfold in your mind. And I think it's pretty obvious. USC and Stanford just playing for the Pac-12 championship and really no berth in this playoff, correct?
Correct. And listen, I think USC's had a good year. They dealt with some injuries early in the season, and I don't think they would have had as many losses if they were healthier. But you could say that about a lot of teams. But I'll be honest, when you watch both of these teams, they're not great teams. They're a cut below the teams at the top from a consistency standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. When you watch them. So I think it can be an entertaining game. I'm excited to watch. Bryce Love's been one of the best stories in college football, and if he had been healthy all year long, I can't even imagine what he have done, because you kind of watch him through the year and you go, oh, the offensive line for Stanford's so daggum good that they're making him look good, and then he gets dinged and doesn't play a little bit, and you go, wow, that guy's pretty ridiculous. I mean, that guy's insane. So it'll be an entertaining game tonight for sure.
So let's take them in order then. The first one of the Power Five after that, after Pac-12, was going to be the Big 12 at 12:30 on Saturday. It's Oklahoma against TCU. Oklahoma beat them in November, beat them 38-20. Do you see any difference, any flip in this one, or are you still looking at Oklahoma?
38-20, Mike, and it wasn't that close.
Yeah.
It was a blowout in the first half, and Baker Mayfield and that offense is the most undefensible offense in college football. And Gary Patterson shows you they're one of the best defenses. There is no team in college football that's going to hold this Baylor offense to under 30 points. Clemson, they're going to get 30 points on Clemson, who's obviously one of the best defenses in the country, maybe the best. Ohio State, obviously you've seen them play against Ohio State. They're going to get theirs against whoever they play. I don't know how you slow them down and stop them. So obviously Kenny Hill and company with TCU, they better run the football and play keep away and try to limit the possessions as much as possible, because I don't know what you do defensively.
All right, as we continue to talk to David Pollack here about Conference Championship Weekend, again, he's really hoping for some upsets. Otherwise, that 4 hours is going to feel like 24 on Sunday. Let's talk about the next game, which would be the SEC Championship and Auburn playing Georgia. Look, it was just 3 weeks ago. What's a bigger challenge here for Auburn, David, in your mind? Is it dealing with the revenge factor or Georgia, or going against a high-quality opponent for basically the third straight game with everything they've had to go through, beating Georgia, then Alabama, and now taking Georgia again?
I think it's the physical toll of those games adding up. And also, Trey, it's not going to be at Auburn.
Right.
When you saw – think about Auburn's 2 losses this year. They were at Death Valley. Now, different Death Valleys. It was Clemson and LSU. And, they had a schedule down the stretch where they got the host. And, listen, Georgia was number 1 in the country for a couple weeks. Everybody was patting them on the back, and then they had to come to their place. They were a little bit disrespected under the radar. So I think it was kind of a perfect storm. But when I look at this matchup, and Golic obviously knows this from playing football for all those years, back in the 50s, listen, the game is decided the trenches. And I don't know. I can draw up a bunch of different schemes, and I can draw up a bunch of different plays. If Georgia hasn't gotten better up front on both sides of the ball, Auburn still has a big advantage. No Kerryon Johnson is a big deal too, and I think Auburn is on fire. And I think Auburn actually right now has been the most complete team in college football.
Well, David, you mentioned the name that might decide this one way or the other when it comes down to it, and that's Kerryon Johnson, who got hurt in the Iron Bowl. Nothing out of Gus Malzahn about his injury or his status for this game. Look, how critical is it for Auburn, if they're going to take down Georgia for a second time in this season, for him to be not only there but functional?
Well, it's very important, because he is the team. And now, listen, I can give you an argument too. Is I don't understand what they've done this year, because Kerryon Johnson has had way too many carries too many times. I mean, you look up and he's got 28 touches or 30 touches, and I'm just like, can we get somebody else in there to rest this kid so he doesn't get worn out, and then he ends up, getting hurt? Here's the thing. It's not like just he got hurt, Trey. Martin behind him got hurt with an ankle. Petway's been out for an extended period of time. So you're talking about, if he doesn't play, you're on at least your third tailback, possibly your fourth. And not to mention that Kerryon Johnson's he's one of the best in the country at his position, and can catch it, can run it, has that Le'Veon Bell type patience that can make things happen. So he's the reason that this whole turnaround's been great. Early in the season, he was dinged up. That's why they struggled more. So if he can't play, it completely changes the game.
All right, 2 more games to get through. The 8 o'clock games will start out in the ACC, Miami against Clemson. Miami, man, and quite honestly, I'm not shocked they lost a game. They were flirting with that against average teams kind of more than a few times this year, and then they played really well against the better teams, my alma mater, unfortunately, one of them. So I just don't know what they can do against Clemson in this one, and they had the injuries going on as well. How do you see it?
Yeah, they've lost, obviously. Rich is their top receiver. They lost Walton early in the season, and they've lost a tight end, so they've kind of been banged up. Miami's mindset is the thing that it's been hard to put a finger on. Like you said, there's been several weeks they came in and they weren't pumped up, and they let people hang around. You got to imagine they're pumped up for the ACC championship game, and I think they'll bring a better effort. Defensively, I think they'll be just fine. Offensively, for me, for Miami, what do they look like? They are so hit or miss. They are so up and down. You can take a quarter and watch them and go, this team sucks. Or you can take a quarter and watch them and go, man, this team's really awesome. Like, look at what they can do. They can run the football. The quarterback can run a little bit. And so, I mean, listen, they need the turnover chain to be out in full effect, and that's going to be their way to win. But which quarterback throws the football and makes plays? Because Kelly Bryant's had some games where he makes you go, hey, that's not great through the air either. But I just don't – I never know with Miami which real Miami's going to stand up and play. And you know what? They get to hear this all week long, and they get to hear you lost last week to Pitt, and you're not very good. You find the real Miami finally showed up. So I think that will hopefully spark them and get them some motivation to show up.
And then the last one, it is at the same time, again, as the ACC, the Big Ten, Ohio State against Wisconsin in Indianapolis. So how do you see that one? And if you see Ohio State winning that one, what do they need else to happen, if anything, in your mind, to make it into the playoffs?
So Ohio State is obviously one of the most talented teams in the country, but they ride that seesaw battle, that up and down, up and down, up and down. The consistency lacks, and again, it drives you crazy too when you watch them. But this is the same team that got beat by 30 by Iowa, a decent team, a okay team. So Ohio State, to me now, an offense that's very dependent upon J.T. Barrett's legs. He just had surgery on Sunday, dude. I mean, how much is he going to carry the football with his knee? What does this offense look like? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Wisconsin, by far, been the most consistent team in the country. Jim Leonard has been awesome. I mean, just think a couple years ago, he's playing the NFL, and now he's a DC, and they do a lot of disguising, and I think they'll make Ohio State work for it. So I'm very curious to see. I think Wisconsin's obviously been playing great. Jonathan Taylor, a true freshman running back, might go to New York off of this game. It won't be what it was a couple years ago, but I definitely give Wisconsin a great chance to pull the upset because they are not favored in this game.
All right, David, look, we're up against the clock, but we got to address the elephant in the room here with you because it's been circulating that you also turned down the Tennessee head coaching job.
No, but somebody else is going to get a raise today, I'm sure.
Boy, isn't that? Use it all you can.
Why not? Let it be you. Let it be you, David. We're floating that out there. You had a secret meeting.
Calls.
All right,
I'm taking calls,
and then you'll say ESPN for life, just like Mike Gundy.
Hey, one more quickly, David. As far as automatics, we know the top four, if they win, they're in. Is it automatic that if Georgia wins the SEC, they're in, and if Miami wins the ACC, they're in your mind?
Yes, they're both in. But a couple things I think that will be very interesting to see. First of all, if Clemson loses, I don't think they're out of the equation. If they lose a close game, watch for Clemson. Think about this, guys. If Oklahoma loses to TCU, their resumes are identical. They would both have lost to each other and Iowa State. Well, guess who beat Ohio State out of conference? Still have a head-to-head over Ohio State. So, and then we got the Ohio State-Alabama if Wisconsin loses too, which would be fascinating. So, hopefully there is some drama coming for our show that we have that's going to be 22 hours long on Sunday.
Absolutely. And, of course, that big drama will also include your future in Knoxville. Hey, David, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
David. See you, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Congrats on the show.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big, giant Jell-O mold.
It's very interesting where that went.
We will continue to roll through a Friday morning on Golic and Wingo. We're on ESPN Radio and ESPN2, presented by Progressive Insurance. And all guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, like this guest. David Pollack, our college football analyst, joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold. David, is this going to be the most interesting or most boring weekend in college football, depending on what happens to these games over the next week starting tonight?
Well, obviously, if the favorites held, then it would be one of the most boring weeks in college football. We would be really crushed on Sunday doing our show from
4 hours. 4 hours, David.
4 hours, guys, and every team in the top four just won. Obviously, there's some intrigue, man. I think when you look at Auburn and Georgia, it not being at Auburn is a huge deal. Them playing again for the second time, there could be some drama. I guess Clemson, you could say is playing really, really great, and is a drama at Miami, and then Wisconsin, and obviously Ohio State. So Oklahoma, TCU rematch. I hope there's drama, but there's a good chance that I could see 3 out of 4 winning, and there not being as much drama. But if the fourth team loses, now we have all kinds of drama, and that would be some stuff that would be kind of fun.
So let's take the games. Let's look at, especially starting tonight, because we want to get into that drama and how you think it will unfold in your mind. And I think it's pretty obvious. USC and Stanford just playing for the Pac-12 championship and really no berth in this playoff, correct?
Correct. And listen, I think USC's had a good year. They dealt with some injuries early in the season, and I don't think they would have had as many losses if they were healthier. But you could say that about a lot of teams. But I'll be honest, when you watch both of these teams, they're not great teams. They're a cut below the teams at the top from a consistency standpoint, from a personnel standpoint. When you watch them. So I think it can be an entertaining game. I'm excited to watch. Bryce Love's been one of the best stories in college football, and if he had been healthy all year long, I can't even imagine what he has done, because you kind of watched him through the year and you go, oh, the offensive line for Stanford's so daggum good that they're making him look good, and then he gets dinged and doesn't play a little bit, and you go, wow, that guy's pretty ridiculous. I mean, that guy's insane. So it'll be an entertaining game tonight for sure.
So let's take them in order then. The first one of the Power Five after that, after Pac-12, was going to be the Big 12 at 12:30 on Saturday. It's Oklahoma against TCU. Oklahoma beat them in November, beat them 38-20. Do you see any difference, any flip in this one, or are you still looking at Oklahoma?
38-20, Mike, and it wasn't that close.
Yeah.
It was a blowout in the first half, and Baker Mayfield and that offense is the most undefensible offense in college football. And Gary Patterson shows you they're one of the best defenses. There is no team in college football that's going to hold this Baylor offense to under 30 points. Clemson, they're going to get 30 points on Clemson, who's obviously one of the best defenses in the country, maybe the best. Ohio State, obviously you've seen them play against Ohio State. They're going to get theirs against whoever they play. I don't know how you slow them down and stop them. So obviously Kenny Hill and company with TCU, they better run the football and play keep away and try to limit the possessions as much as possible, because I don't know what you do defensively.
All right, as we continue to talk to David Pollack here about Conference Championship Weekend, again, he's really hoping for some upsets. Otherwise, that 4 hours is going to feel like 24 on Sunday. Let's talk about the next game, which would be the SEC Championship and Auburn playing Georgia. Look, it was just 3 weeks ago. What's a bigger challenge here for Auburn, David, in your mind? Is it dealing with the revenge factor or Georgia, or going against a high-quality opponent for basically the third straight game with everything they've had to go through, beating Georgia, then Alabama, and now taking Georgia again?
I think it's the physical toll of those games adding up. And also, Trey, it's not going to be at Auburn.
Right.
When you saw – think about Auburn's 2 losses this year. They were at Death Valley. Now, different Death Valleys. It was Clemson and LSU. And, they had a schedule down the stretch where they got the host. And, listen, Georgia was number 1 in the country for a couple of weeks. Everybody was patting them on the back, and then they had to come to their place. They were a little bit disrespected under the radar. So I think it was kind of a perfect storm. But when I look at this matchup, and Golic obviously knows this from playing football for all those years, back in the 50s, listen, the game is decided
Shots
in
fired.
the trenches. And I don't know I can draw up a bunch of different schemes, and I can draw up a bunch of different plays. If Georgia hasn't gotten better up front on both sides of the ball, Auburn still has a big advantage. No Kerryon Johnson is a big deal, too. And I think Auburn is on fire. And I think Auburn actually right now has been the most complete team in college football.
Well, David, you mentioned the name that might decide this one way or the other when it comes down to it, and that's Kerryon Johnson, who got hurt in the Iron Bowl. Nothing out of Gus Malzahn about his injury or his status for this game. Look, how critical is it for Auburn, if they're going to take down Georgia for a second time in this season, for him to be not only there but functional?
Well, it's very important because he is the team. And now, listen, I can give you an argument, too, is I don't understand what they've done this year because Kerryon Johnson has had way too many carries too many times. I mean, you look up and he's got 28 touches or 30 touches, and I'm just like, can we get somebody else in there to rest this kid so he doesn't get worn out and then he ends up, getting hurt? Here's the thing. It's not like just he got hurt, Trey. Martin behind him got hurt with an ankle. Petway's been out for an extended period of time. So you're talking about if he doesn't play, you're on at least your third tailback, possibly your fourth. And not to mention that Kerryon Johnson's he's one of the best in the country at his position and can catch it, can run it, has that Le'Veon Bell type patience that can make things happen. So he's the reason that this whole turnaround's been great. Early in the season, he was dinged up. That's why they struggled more. So if he can't play, it completely changes the game.
All right, two more games to get through. They're the 8 o'clock games. We'll start out in the ACC, Miami against Clemson. Miami, man, and quite honestly, I'm not shocked they lost a game. They were flirting with that against average teams kind of more than a few times this year, and then they played really well against the better teams, my alma mater, unfortunately, one of them. So I just don't know what they can do against Clemson in this one, and they had the injuries going on as well. How do you see it?
Yeah, they've lost, obviously. Rich is their top receiver. They lost Walton early in the season, and they've lost a tight end, so they've kind of been banged up. Miami's mindset is the thing that it's been hard to put a finger on. Like you said, there's been several weeks they came in and they weren't pumped up, and they let people hang around. You got to imagine they're pumped up for the ACC championship game, and I think they'll bring a better effort. Defensively, I think they'll be just fine. Offensively, for me, for Miami, what do they look like? They are so hit or miss. They are so up and down. You can take a quarter and watch them and go, this team sucks. Or you can take a quarter and watch them and go, man, this team's really awesome. Like, look at what they can do. They can run the football. The quarterback can run a little bit. And so, I mean, listen, they need the turnover chain to be out in full effect, and then that's going to be their way to win. But which quarterback throws the football and makes plays? Because Kelly Bryant's had some games where he makes you go, hey, that's not great through the air either. But I just don't – I never know with Miami which real Miami's going to stand up and play. And you know what? They get to hear this all week long, and they get to hear you lost last week to Pitt, and you're not very good. You find the real Miami finally showed up. So I think that will hopefully spark them and get them some motivation to show up.
And then the last one, it is at the same time, again, as the ACC, the Big Ten, Ohio State against Wisconsin in Indianapolis. So how do you see that one? And if you see Ohio State winning that one, what do they need else to happen, if anything, in your mind, to make it into the playoffs?
So Ohio State is obviously one of the most talented teams in the country, but they ride that seesaw battle, that up and down, up and down, up and down. The consistency lacks, and again, it drives you crazy too when you watch them. But this is the same team that got beat by 30 by Iowa, a decent team, a okay team. So Ohio State, to me, now an offense is very dependent upon J.T. Barrett's legs. He just had surgery on Sunday, dude. I mean, how much is he going to carry the football with his knee? What does this offense look like? It's going to be very, very interesting to see. Wisconsin, by far, been the most consistent team in the country. Jim Leonard has been awesome. I mean, just think a couple years ago he's playing the NFL, and now he's a DC, and they do a lot of disguising, and I think they'll make Ohio State work for it. So I'm very curious to see. I think Wisconsin's obviously been playing great. Jonathan Taylor, a true freshman running back, might go to New York off of this game. It won't be what it was a couple years ago, but I definitely give Wisconsin a great chance to pull the upset because they are not favored in this game.
All right, David, look, we're up against the clock, but we got to address the elephant in the room here with you because it's been circulating that you also turned down the Tennessee head coaching job.
No, but somebody else is going to get a raise today, I'm sure. For Tennessee,
Boy, isn't that? Use it all you can.
Why not? Let it be you. Let it be you, David. We're floating that out there. You had a secret meeting.
Calls.
All right,
I'm taking calls,
and then you'll say ESPN for life, just like Mike Gundy.
Hey, one more quickly, David. As far as automatics, we know the top 4, if they win, they're in. Is it automatic that if Georgia wins the SEC, they're in, and if Miami wins the ACC, they're in your mind?
Yes, they're both in. But a couple things I think that will be very interesting to see. First of all, if Clemson loses, I don't think they're out of the equation. If they lose a close game, watch for Clemson. Think about this, guys. If Oklahoma loses to TCU, their resumes are identical. They would both have lost to each other and Iowa State. Well, guess who beat Ohio State out of conference? Still have a head-to-head over Ohio State. So, and then we got the Ohio State-Alabama if Wisconsin loses too, which would be fascinating. So there's hopefully there is some drama coming for our show that we have that's going to be 22 hours long on Sunday.
Absolutely. And, of course, that big drama will also include your future in Knoxville. Hey, David, we appreciate it. Thanks very much.
David. See you, man.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks. Congrats on the show.
Golic and Wingo, the podcast.
It was all sort of one big, giant Jell-O mold.
Very interesting where that went.
Every once in a while, Mike, we are deemed worthy of someone joining us in person.
There you go.
And ladies and gentlemen, today is one of those mornings.
Yes, it is.
The great Katie Nolan has decided to glamour us with her presence.
He went right with great.
Yeah, well, he hesitated. He said he
was trying to think of a word there, wasn't he? He went with great.
Fine. Yeah. Fine. She's fine.
It's hour 4.
Last time, hour 1 of my day.
Last time we saw you was in Houston at the Super Bowl.
Yes,
correct?
That's right. We were all in the same hotel.
Yes, we were.
It was a weird thing, but it was.
Yeah. You pass the thing about the Super Bowl. You pass everybody in the business there. Yeah. Everybody, because you're usually at the same hotel.
Especially last year, because that Super Bowl was built for. Little Houston trivia.
There you go.
That Super Bowl was built right before the first Super Bowl played in Houston, Super Bowl 38. And literally, as we were moving in to get set for NFL, they were still putting up "Welcome to the Super Bowl" signs. That's how new it was. Yeah. And it's a massive hotel.
Yes,
it
is.
Huge. Yeah. So literally, whether you worked for Fox or CBS or ESPN or NBC Sports or whatever, everybody was there. So you would pass everybody in the hallway, and there was this one giant little gathering bar there in a restaurant, and you would just see a million people.
Yeah.
We ran into
one other bit of history as well. I was drafted by the Houston Oilers and lived there in '85 before Katie was born.
Me
so
too.
There you go.
Me too. I was also drafted by the Oilers. Yeah.
The litty of things that we did before Katie was born, I could fill another 6 hours.
How about it? You're not
which
kidding.
is a separate issue. So anyway, welcome to ESPN. This is our official welcome to you here. Mm-hmm. I love the press release when your hiring was announced. Katie will be doing an unspecified amount of roles. Mm-hmm. So we are delighted to be part of your unspecified amount of roles.
Yeah, figuring it out one day at a time.
Yeah. And do we know more what's happening there?
It's all digital stuff. So we're launching a podcast in January.
Gotcha.
I love how she's looking to somebody else.
Ashley of looking to
Ashley for confirmation. Yeah. She's shaking her head. Yeah, so good call. Good job.
Podcast yet to be named.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that. Soliciting names.
Yes, we're gonna get to that.
Well, one thing you should know sometimes at ESPN, launch dates can be soft.
Yeah, they can.
They can tend to just massage a little bit. But we want that podcast to start in January. We need that podcast.
It's gonna, whether you like it or not,
to start in January.
One of the last things we were talking about, we had Nota Begay on, who was a roommate at Tiger Woods. I don't know if you have any famous roommate stories that you know about. More people, we went over the list of them, and more people are. Here's the thing: when people start tweeting them in, do you believe them? Jim Nantz, Fred Couples.
And Blaine McAllister, by the way, who was also a pro golfer.
Right, all three of them. Someone's saying James Gandolfini and Mario Batali.
Wow.
Which, man.
I did not know that.
I would love to have lived with a guy who wanted to be, at that point, I don't know if he was a chef or training to be. How great would that be?
Yeah.
I mean, meals are set at that point. That would be awesome.
Imagine Gandolfini would be good company too.
Someone is saying Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash were roommates in Nashville.
That is true. If you've seen the movie Walk the Line, with Joaquin Phoenix playing Johnny Cash.
And
have
then,
you seen that one?
And then, I have, absolutely.
There's a scene where Waylon and he are in that movie together.
I don't think you can beat you can't beat Harry and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber.
No, they were real life roommates. Yeah, they definitely lived together.
So you're telling me there's a chance. There's a chance. And so there's a chance that you might be a huge Patriots fan, Katie.
Yeah, slight chance. Yep.
Now, are you an actual Patriots fan, or are you one of these people that suddenly, when they got good, hey, that's my team, and I love those guys?
Did you front run them?
I will say I came to football later in life than other sports.
Yeah.
Growing up, my family wasn't really a football family, which is probably because the Patriots were trash.
Yeah.
But I'm not a front runner. Like I'm from there, so
right.
you get them no matter what.
Right, but I mean, because it's amazing what the Patriots have become, like the standard in the NFL. Because forever they were like the Patriots, and when they won their first Super Bowl in New Orleans, Super Bowl 36. Bill Simmons had this great line. He was walking by some guy who was overserved at that point, sitting down somewhere on a street, and he just had this look on his face, and he was holding his hands, and he just said, "I can't believe the Patriots actually won the Super Bowl." I mean, it was beyond comprehension to believe that team who played in that horrible stadium where no one would ever go on Monday night after they threw all that stuff on the field.
The only thing I knew about them growing up, my mom said she went on her worst date at that stadium when it had like the metal seats that would like dip in the middle, and she said it rained, and she sat in a puddle, and she's like, "We will never be Patriots fans." And
now and you go to that place, and basically
fantastic.
Foxborough is like a small city.
It is
just the stadium complex.
The old thing. I was my brother Bob got drafted there in 1979. Again, before you were born. So when it was not what it is now.
Before I was born.
Okay, there you have it. And there you have it, huh? It's the age thing going on here. But we want to certainly get into football, but we've been talking a lot about Tiger. It's interesting because my son Mike sits there for the first hour or two of the show.
Yeah, I notice he's not here now.
Well, he's not here.
By the way, kudos to you, because the stench usually from over there is pretty strong, so you're braving the elements.
I'm not sure why he keeps running away from me.
Scared?
Just want to hang out with him. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to come on the show that I'm usually on all the time? I'm going to leave." What's that about?
I don't know, because he was over here doing a podcast. All of a sudden, he's gone again. I'm not really sure.
Oh, that's fine.
But I wonder if it's this generational thing, because Trey and I we're excited again about...
that was the word I was going for. We own it. She said old.
Oh, yeah. Well, outside of old,
Earned every one of them.
Earned
every one of them.
Because of you kids, you damn millennials.
Get off my lawn.
We're excited about the comeback of... We're kind of muting it this time around because it's a third or fourth time coming back. My son Mike wasn't as much. He's like, give me a tournament, give me a Sunday on a tournament, give me a major before I really start buying in to Tiger again. Where are you on that?
I'm kind of there. I mean, I'm in between. I'm ready for a good story, and I think that would be a good story. I don't want to be the immediately negative, like, nah, it's not enough. But you also don't want to overhype it, because then, I don't know, it's just too much pressure.
Well, then this is great, because we put this out on the poll today on Twitter. Tiger Woods' great start means something, everything, nothing, or golf is boring.
I would say something.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. You're in the lead. You're tied for the lead.
Tied for the lead now.
But it's huge for me.
But
really
it just
big.
shows, this is why you came here for this.
Yeah.
But this shows the issue that we're talking about. Something and nothing are tied at 36%.
Yeah.
16% say everything and 12%.
But have you met the internet?
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think that is
12,000 votes, though. I mean, that says
look
something.
At you.
At 6 a.m.
I do think it is that there are those like us, Trey, that want something to be there, and there are those that are saying, I don't want to hear it until he's done something, because seen this song and dance before, and until we see more, we think it's going to end the same. So we're just going to have to wait and see if for actually round two of his comeback, as opposed to just one round.
Or it may be, after all the surgeries and everything he's come back from, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 at this point.
Yeah.
Whatever this comeback is. Okay, we'll see what happens. Again, Tiger tees off, I think, about 11:30 today, and the Golf Channel will have that. Let's talk about the Patriots. This year did not start out great for them.
No.
They were 2-2, but as we all learned in 2014, when they lost on Monday night to Kansas City and everybody was burying them and Brady was old and all these things, they did go on to win the Super Bowl that year. So no one judges the Patriots in September. You judge them in December. How do you feel about your team's chances of getting back to the Super Bowl once again now?
I feel great about it. There's really nothing to... How do you feel about it?
I feel like there's only one team that has a chance to slow them.
Were you worried at the beginning of the season?
It started a little. Yeah, I mean, it's been a while since it's felt that way, but it's better then to get that out of the way. Yeah. And now we're just sort of. It feels like they've clicked. They're rolling. It feels I feel pretty confident.
Well, the defense has been just ridiculous how much better it's been. But you're right. I mean, when everyone was on him at 2-2, and like, haven't we been here before? Haven't we done this already?
But 2 losses at home was a little out of the ordinary.
That was the
and the
weirdest
defense
thing.
looked horrendous.
Horrible.
And they've been great ever since. Matt Patricia's done a great job.
And quite honestly, the first couple of games, Gronk looked like the Tin Man.
Yeah.
He really did. And you wondered, okay, is he going to kind of get into his groove? And obviously, that's worked out pretty well as a 40-year-old Tom Brady as well.
Exactly. And Gronk, of course, is from Western New York.
Right.
I think he grew up in Amherst, right outside Buffalo. They're playing Buffalo this weekend, and Gronk was asked if he'd ever done all the things. If you'd ever been to a Bills tailgate, it's the most.
They're all diving all over the tables.
Well, they're lighting themselves on fire.
Yeah.
There's
they have an interesting way.
There's
to
the
tailgate.
ketchup guy. They spray ketchup and mustard.
Yeah.
That one I don't quite understand.
Yeah.
But hey,
does he shower before he goes into the game? I'm
what
unclear on.
reason?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Or even before you go, because
Yeah.
you're just going to be covered in
Right.
freaking condiments.
Yeah.
So I don't quite understand that. So anyway, Gronk, who grew up in the area, was asked if he'd ever done the stuff as a Bills fan growing up that Bills fans do now.
Not at a tailgate, but I've been through tables before, for sure. Like family get-togethers, I've definitely been growing up through tables.
He's been through. Well, listen,
family get-togethers.
Well, I have been out
places.
I have been out places where he is with his brothers, and it reminds me a little bit. I go back to the day when Jim Kelly and his brothers.
Yes.
They would have some good times as well.
Run hard, run deep.
Yes, and Gronk's and he and his brothers seem kind of the same way, and I've kind of seen them in action. They have themselves a good time. There's no doubt about that.
No way.
Yeah, so
the Gronkowskis?
Gronk's been through a few tables. I love that line. I think that's awesome.
Family gatherings.
Well, I can't remember
crazy.
the last Gronk that got drafted. It wasn't Rob. There's been 4. Maybe it was Chris. I'm not sure. But, we have these draft packets.
Right.
Interchangeable Gronks, really, except one is better at football than the rest of them.
Yes.
But at everything else, they sort of do it together. And they were talking about what it was like growing up with the 4 brothers so close. And he mentioned family gatherings and the table. This all makes sense because they said it was like a feeding frenzy.
Yeah.
At the dinner table, and if you didn't get there first, your food was gone and you were starving. So that's probably the table issue that they were talking.
Yeah.
They had to throw bows just to get their meals.
Not a whole lot of
you
go
brothers.
first. No, you go first.
None of that.
Go first. Yeah.
None of that. I'm taking your steak and I'm eating it raw. That's sort of that. So what's your take on Gronk, not only on the field but off the field and sort of the way he presents himself?
I think it's it's fun and lovable, and it is what it is. I think it's interesting it being in the Patriots organization. It's not really a thing normally that we have. Is somebody that makes jokes that I don't know if Bill even understands or appreciates.
Joke.
Yeah, but I think he's fun. He's just a dude.
He's a dude.
You're right. That doesn't seem
dude.
to fit with that type of living in that locker room.
But the thing that people don't know enough about him, I think he's won their Man of the Year award like 2 or 3 times. And the other thing that he's been great at, he has yet to spend a single dollar of his NFL salary. He lives off the endorsements.
Is that still? I know that was the wait like 2 years ago.
He
but
lives off his endorsements.
Up.
He lives off his endorsement. He has yet to spend a single dime of his NFL salary. All these guys that go broke, and you see this image of him and going through the tables. He's smarter than you think. He really is.
That is impressive.
Yeah. Or he's got good people.
That as well. The first talk I went and gave when I was a Philadelphia Eagle, I got $25 for.
And what'd you do? Have a Happy Meal?
I spent it.
He did. I was going to say, he didn't spend it. He saved it.
I spent it on the way home on food and tolls.
$5 million over the years.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
So obviously they're doing well, and then on the other end is the only team that seems to be able to beat them in the Super Bowl twice. That would be the Giants. Mm-hmm. Been a bad week for the Giants.
Not great.
Been a bad season for the Giants.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on how the Eli Manning sit-down situation was handled?
I can't be impartial on this. I can't not be. It's sad, and I feel bad. But at the same time, I don't really.
No, you don't.
I don't know.
I can tell you
I don't think it makes any sense. I think it was kind of stupid. But I do feel
that
the
deal that was made over it.
I think that them benching him for Geno is stupid.
Right.
But I also, when he got emotional at his locker, I was like, oh man,
poor guy.
That's kind of a bummer.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
he stole 2 rings from you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's sort of
people. I've been having to get into debates with people about if he's a better quarterback than Tom Brady.
That's a hard nut.
That's
a hard nut.
This is okay. You got benched for Geno Smith.
The one thing you would say to a Patriot fan is as if they don't want more. is the Manning family cost you 5 rings.
That's it. I mean,
you have 5. You could have had 5 more.
You could have had 10.
Happy I'm here.
Maybe. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
For having me.
Maybe 9 because I think Seattle might have beaten them.
Right.
So, yeah, but if they had beaten the Colts, they were beating the Bears.
Yeah.
There's no question they were beating the Bears in Super
Yeah.
Bowl 41. And I think they probably would have had a really good shot against Carolina.
Right.
And, of course, Eli beat them twice. So you must hate the Manning family because they denied you at least 5 more rings.
I have no ill will towards anyone.
Oh, my God, do I not believe that?
Just the picture.
I'm new here. I'm just trying to
She's not trying to ruffle any feathers.
Stick around for a bit.
Okay, we are here on Golic and Wingo on our Friday. Katie Nolan is here with us in an undefined
Friday.
role. In an undefined role.
Yes.
And we're happy to be part of the undefined role. But let's play a little fill in the blank.
Let's do it.
Do we have sound
Exciting.
for fill in the blank?
Fill in the blank.
There it is.
There you go.
Here we go. You ready? Lime green fill in the blank. But I liked her version better.
Okay.
Fill in the blank with Golic and Wingo.
Ooh, cha-cha music.
Well, there you go.
That was.
Well,
Okay,
cha-cha.
you ready? You want
All
to
right.
start? You want to start? You want me to start?
You go ahead.
All right, here we go. The NFL game you are most looking forward to watching this weekend is what, Katie Nolan?
Now, it's very rare to pick a game where there's a 14-point spread, but I'm going to say that Browns game because I want to see Josh Gordon.
I'm with you.
So I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm with you. I think that's one of the great stories. Maybe if he can come back and play, it would be awesome. Much in the Tiger Woods comeback, this would be tremendous.
As I said, to me, the football is a bonus. He needs to take advantage of another chance there, but he needs to make sure he gets his life in order. As I said earlier, Katie, there's probably a number of people that say he shouldn't even be playing football anymore. He shouldn't get any more chances. The bottom line is he does, but to me, the more important thing is you got to take care of life at this point.
And if that's the constant that helps him stay, grounded and get his life together, then I think that's good for him. I think we should all be encouraging, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
What about you?
I'm probably going Carolina and New Orleans. You know, New Orleans already beat Carolina once in Carolina. This game now in New Orleans, they both have 3 losses going on right now. So a monster game for Carolina, a team that's won 4 in a row. New Orleans finally had their winning streak snapped, but I just love this matchup. Mike brought it up earlier. Ingram and Kamara against that linebacking core from Carolina, I think is going to be a fantastic matchup.
I'm going Philly at Seattle because, look, Philly has been on an unfettered run, but Seattle's a really tough place to play, and they've already lost 2 home games. Are they really going to lose 3 games at home up there? I know they're beat up, but you know what? Philly's success has really been about the running game, and that running defense is still pretty strong. So are they going to force Carson Wentz to make throws against what's left of the Legion of Boom? I think it's one guy and other people. Fill in the blank brought to you by Mahindra Tractors and Utility Vehicles. Mahindra USA, the world's #1 selling tractor. Okay, we sort of danced around.
It's a good bring on a tractor. Do you get a free tractor?
I have 4.
How about that? Yeah.
Oh, okay, big guy.
How about
you get a tractor depending on how good these answers are.
Oh, man.
All right, we've already sort of danced around this, but the word to sum up Tiger Woods' 3 under par yesterday is
encouraging.
I like that.
That's a good word. One thing I never do, I never stick to the word. I always still give a phrase.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Well, my name's on
You
the
can
show,
do
so I can do whatever I want. But I think the word, it still could be a word. Do you dare say hopeful after 1 round?
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I want to go that far, but that's where I'm going to go because I am hoping it goes well.
All right, now I'm going to do what you just said you did, is going to make me watch.
Okay.
I'm the only one following the rules of this game. Just to be clear, never been on the show before, following the rules.
You're a rule follower.
Blowing it out of the water right now.
All right, here we go. Next question. The blank are the best team in the NBA's Eastern Conference. I think I know where you're going.
I'm going to say Celtics, but I could say Sixers just because if you define best as like the most fun to watch.
Yeah.
They are. I mean, Joel Embiid, forgetting just the play of which he's incredible, his status on social media
he's incredible.
Is just
he's
fantastic. I think a better way to add, by the end of the season, do you think the Celtics, I know if you can look past that, the way Cleveland is playing now, the Celtics played well earlier. Do you think anybody other than, do you think the Celtics can make the finals?
I mean, no, maybe.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Could be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so early. I can't. I'm not hot takey radio. I can't.
Right.
I'm not as good at this.
We are the least hot takey
I know,
radio.
but even still, like radio, you got to have a take, and I feel like it is early.
It is early.
It is early.
As we always say,
here at 6.
As we always say, water finds its level. I think Gordon Hayward.
You guys say that a lot,
but it's true. It is true for the most part. I still think the Cavs will be the team to beat. I'm from Cleveland, so I still say they're going to be the team that goes to the finals.
I'm just going to say the TBD TBD are the best team in the NBA's Eastern Conference because we don't know.
That's a cop-out.
Again,
You're right.
It's a complete cop-out.
Not following the rules.
Well, that's a phrase.
Cop-out.
Fine, I'll go. I'll go Cavs with a 10-game winning streak.
See, there you go.
With you there.
All right, way to make a stand.
All right, here we go. Fill in the blank continues with Katie Nolan.
This one's just
in
for
an
her.
unspecified role. When you got to ESPN, the person. No, this would be for everybody.
You guys answer first.
When you got to ESPN, the person you wanted to meet the most was
Darren Ravel.
Wow.
Really?
I gotta say, I did not see that coming. Okay.
He said, "Really? No, not. I don't know. Beetle. I actually hadn't met Michelle
Beebs.
Beetle. We'd been
That makes more sense.
We'd Twitter messaged and we'd FaceTime.
You've been out on Sports Nation, right?
Yeah,
So you say,
yeah,
okay.
yeah. I met her for the first time when I did Sports Nation the first time.
But
so I was,
did you meet her pugs and
No,
her dogs?
not yet.
That's what you got to
I'm
meet.
excited.
Have you met
I got a
Stephen
couple-
A?
Yeah.
No, I have not.
All right, he's looming around here somewhere.
So Beetle, okay, and she got
Yeah.
to meet
What about
Beetle.
you?
What about you?
Well, I mean, mine was years ago. You know what I was interested to meet? I'm Bob Lee.
I was just going to say Bob
General
Lee. I was going to
Store.
guess Bob Lee.
Yes. How about that? How about you?
Boomer.
Me?
No.
Okay.
No. Boomer. Without question. I tell you, great story about Boom. I had met him when I was working in St. Louis years ago, and we were talking over the cheddar smoky hot dogs that were at Busch Stadium press box, and they were great. So, that was 3 years ago. I came back, Chris Berman, Trey Wingo, and I said, yeah, you were the guy from St. Louis. I mean, he remembered that from 3 years ago. So the Boom Schwam, he's good with the memory. Just saying.
I would have said him, but I met him while I was
You
playing.
guys just
so
picked the two longest standing
Well,
ESPN
we got here
employees.
decades ago,
That's fair.
again,
That's
before
fair.
you were born.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Couldn't have seen into the future.
We were here with Barney Rubble.
There you go.
That's how long ago we've been doing this. All right, here it is. The name of Katie Nolan's new podcast should be...
Yeah, I'm not going to answer this one, but I'm going to set you up for this.
Okay.
I'm launching a new podcast. We don't know what we were going to name it, so we decided that for the first episode, I think we're going to do like a bracket of all suggestions from people.
Oh, so get a bunch of suggestions, put it in a bracket, and go from there.
I haven't started yet, so you guys are my first two suggestions. I hope you put some thought into this.
Oh,
what should we call it?
Easy. Katie's podcast.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
great.
there you go.
That is
Were you part of
some
the
next
marketing
level stuff.
Were you part of the marketing team that came up with the name of the show?
You mean Golic and Wingo? Yeah, pretty much.
Solid work.
I thought 3 seconds about that.
Mhm,
and look what I came up with.
Crushed it.
Gold.
Nailing it.
Hey, you're welcome.
Thank you.
I've got it.
Thank you.
I've got it.
What is it?
Unspecified role.
Oh, wow.
Unspecified role.
That's
Coming
not
up next
bad.
on the Unspecified Role podcast.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's probably better than mine.
That was really
Just only slightly.
Just a little bit.
Only slightly.
Only by miles.
I hate you both.
That's
Why don't you call your podcast? This show is called Golic and Wingo. Why don't you call your podcast Wingo and Golic?
No, don't do that. You want people to actually click
Yeah, I
on
was going to say, I want people to listen, so it's
The
tough.
whole point is to get people to click on it. That would have the absolute
Do you realize
opposite
how many
effect.
times she's come in here and insulted us?
I know, it
Yes.
has been a couple. I'm
Yeah.
only kidding.
No, but that's okay. I'd rather you do that than be overly nice because then we know you wouldn't be serious.
Yeah, that would be, especially this early. I'm not nice to anybody this early in the morning.
As I always say, two things. Play to your strengths and be who you are.
Yeah.
So that's it. Katie Nolan is here, ladies and gentlemen. Again, coming up in an unspecified role.
There you go.
On our podcast and many other things.
We enjoyed it here, though.
We enjoyed having you here. And to having you here, let me just say.
Dilly dilly.
Thank you,
Dilly.
Katie Nolan
Dilly
here with
dilly.
us.
Thanks for having me.
She'll have some stuff in an unspecified role.
Yes, you will.
This has been the Best of Golic and Wingo podcast. Make sure to subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, and to listen every weekday morning at 6 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app.